Okay, so we're going to go off into the ether today for something that is, again, along the lines of the topic from earlier this week concerning 9/11 and the Mossad and whatever. And actually, it also ties in a bit to the Jeffrey Epstein controversy. And I think people that are trying to find meaning in what's going on. I don't always think that they're being unethical, but I also, when I hear a theory, I'm probably not the only one on this stream. I'm talking about me and the people in the chat who, we listen to conspiracy theories, we assess them, and then we decide based on an analysis from our own angle and our own experiences, whether to believe them or not. So I know a few of my listeners may be fans of Lionel Nation, and I think his approach is a little better than other people. You don't necessarily discount sources just because of who they're affiliated with, or opinions that they have, or maybe prejudices that they possess, but you kind of try to assess what they're talking about, and then maybe you make a judgment. Sometimes you never find enough facts to make a judgment. And I think in the case of the question, which is posed here by Ben Swan, of whether Jeffrey Epstein is a Mossad agent, I would say this. You can't go today with the facts that are public and decline to acknowledge that it's a possibility. Okay, there's so much that could be true with this case that we can't just discount theories just because you might be uncomfortable with it. And I, of all people, I would probably have just as much to be uncomfortable about as anyone else. I served in the Israeli military. I'm sure some of you are aware. And, this would reflect very poorly on, my country, the country where my family comes from, at least. I was born here. And on the people that a lot of the people that I associate with. So we're going to watch this video in a second. Quick reminder. So this is just a programming reminder. I'll probably go into this a few times, until I decide not to. So the dissenter extension is the best way as of right now to actually boost some of these videos, because as you can see, there's this streaming chyron at the top, and it shows how many comments are on, and the more comments are on a video or article, the more it shows up on the Gab extension. So I would request that you do that for this video. Here, I'll pull mine up. And I've already put 2 comments there because, I'm actually going to start putting some of the source links and stuff like that there, rather than just the comments of the video, because, I think it's a good place to store them. Putting it in the description isn't as good. So we have Stormy with the crabs already. That's not good. Starting with the crabs in the afternoon. Somebody get the aloe vera. Anyway, so we'll watch this video. Ben Swan, before he worked at RT, I used to watch his stuff a lot. And his stuff on RT isn't bad either. So we'll watch this. I'll give my opinion. I'll kind of weigh the validity and maybe some of the issues that I have with the presentation of this. And then hopefully you guys will give your own assessment. And then I have a blog post that I made, which is a little long, but we'll try to go through the main facts concerning the 9/11 dancing Israelis theory. Okay, so we'll get into that afterward, but I'll play this without interruption.
One, you mentioned about Alexander Acosta and saying you don't believe what he's saying, so he'll try to save his butt.
Right.
I agree with you, but the statement he made about Epstein being intelligence was actually not made when the heat was on him. It was actually made prior to his confirmation hearing to become labor secretary. He was asked in an interview by the Trump administration when they were vetting him, saying, is this whole Epstein thing going to cause us problems? He said, it's not going to cause us problems because I was told to back off, that Epstein was above my pay grade and that he's some sort of intelligence.
Great point.
So it wasn't when he was under the seat. That's important. Second thing is this, this Maxwell connection is kind of shocking. If you really take a look at what's going on with it, Robert Maxwell, the billionaire from the UK who owned a newspaper empire there have been allegations and claims for many years. He died in 1991, by the way, in a completely bizarre way. He was standing naked on his yacht named after his daughter and then jumped in or fell into the ocean near the Canary Islands and either drowned or had a heart attack, and there isn't even a clear cause of death for him. The claims have been made over the years that he was Mossad. In fact, the British Foreign Office believed that he was absolutely a double agent, and they believed that he was Mossad. So if he was Mossad, possibly, it's also possible that his daughter is connected to Mossad, and that's how she's connected to Epstein, because the two have been together for years. Don't seem to have any relationship other than her being his fixer, which is a very strange relationship for the daughter of a billionaire to take.
Adding something to what you're talking about right now, Michelle had mentioned to me Maxwell was essentially his only partner, client.
Right, so the daughter of Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell, pretty much acted as this recruiter and even sometimes a participant in this sexual abuse. But I think Ben is absolutely hitting the nail on the head. We have this father of his partner in crime with very strong ties to Mossad, who's been accused of being an Israeli agent by many journalists, including Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Seymour Hersh. And in a book called Robert Maxwell, Israel's Super Spy, that actually really details both his life and death, a very strong case is made for the fact that he was actually assassinated by the Mossad after he became a liability.
All right, let me push back on both of you here a little bit. Could it be that Maxwell just happened to be one of his many clients, as, can happen in most cases?
Are you talking about the daughter?
I'm talking about both the daughter and Maxwell, whoever it was that he's being tied to.
No, because Maxwell... Okay, go ahead, Ben. Yeah, sorry.
To you.
Well, no. I was going to say, so Robert Maxwell was not a client in any way. But here's something interesting, Rick, that because I know how you like to go down this rabbit hole, right? Think about this. Robert Maxwell, after he died, he is a British citizen, was given a state funeral in Israel. The prime minister got up and said that he had done much more for Israel than anyone could ever know this day during his eulogy. So Robert Maxwell was clearly tied in ways to the state of Israel that go far beyond what the average person would be, even the average billionaire. He was connected very, very heavily to that. As for his daughter, in terms of her involvement, again, her relationship to Epstein is so important because, again, here's a woman who seems to go around and recruit these girls for him and gets nothing out of it, other than to be like kind of his partner in crime. And then last thing I'd say about this, the black book that Epstein has the names of so many, and not just in the United States. We're talking about U.S. politicians. We're talking about, again, his relationship with people like Prince Andrew. The king of Saudi Arabia, King bin Salman, is in that book. So he's connected to people all over the world,
listen,
and people with whom the Israelis would want to connect.
I read the New Yorker today, Gabe Sherman's piece. I saw some of the new names that are out there. We are out of time. Wish we could go, but I'm just going to ask you yes or no. Michelle first. Is he going to sing?
No.
Ben?
If he sings, I don't think they give him time to. He'll also fall off a boat someplace.
Wow.
Okay, so you saw that, and a lot of people will criticize RT for that, and I don't think it was the perfect. What do you want to call it? I don't even know what to call that. I think that there are certainly holes in the story, but I think that people who are going to call Ben Swann and Rick Sanchez and Michelle Greenstein anti-Semites about this, I think they should hold off for a second, okay? Rick Sanchez, by the way, was accused for many years of being anti-Semitic because of some things that he did say about Jews when he was working at CNN. But I don't care if someone is anti-Semitic or not anti-Semitic. I care about the facts. I think you guys care about the facts. If people want to hate me either way, that's fine. I think that we can all live another day, even with other people's bad vibes. Obviously, you don't want it to be that way. But, so, on the one hand, you have the evidence that they present. And the evidence is not, it's not something that you can just dismiss, okay? Robert Maxwell was very credibly alleged to have been a Mossad agent. Another thing that I don't think that they've brought up on RT yet is the fact that Jeffrey Epstein was he was in contact with former Prime Minister Ehud Barak of Israel, who was Prime Minister about 18 years ago, I think. So they were, and he's actually suing the Daily Mail now because they had a screenshot of Barak walking into Epstein's house a couple years ago, in 2016, in fact. And it says here, former Prime Minister and IDF chief dismisses claims that he was hiding his identity as Daily Mail publishes old picture of him outside New York townhouse of accused child sex trafficker, hinting at involvement in alleged crimes, threatens to sue newspaper if it doesn't apologize. So, look, I don't know if Ehud Barak would be able to sue the Daily Mail. I guess in British court, the standards for libel are a lot stronger. But if he goes through the lawsuit, what would be the discovery then? I don't know maybe you guys would know better. You're talking about different rules over there in terms of how evidence is handled between the prosecution and the defense. So, yeah, it could be that the prime minister is full of shit, and that would be a major black eye on the face of Israel, because you would have a former chief of staff, a former defense minister, a former prime minister who got caught with, doing some very dirty shenanigans, stuff that is abhorrent, and I think all of us can agree it's pretty, immoral, simply put. And I don't really throw around the morality issue as much. Obviously, we let Stormy stay in the chat. It's a no judgment zone for Madame over there. So, look. It says one of the images showed Barak covering his face with a scarf, implying that he was trying to disguise his identity. Barak, however, said that he had been trying to protect his face from the inclement weather of January in New York. So yeah, a few years ago, it was a little chilly back then. I remember January might have been that polar vortex month. I'm not quite sure if that was 2016 or not. Barak's lawyers demanded that the British. You do see though that his head, his scalp isn't covered, which is a little strange, and neither is the scalp of his security guard over here, which is also pretty screwed up. Barak's lawyers demanded that the British newspaper apologize for publishing the images and linking Barak to Epstein's alleged crimes, and threatened to sue. It should say sue, but these idiots don't know how to write. The organization, if it doesn't respond to their demand before 7 p.m. Israel time on Wednesday. Guilty, the former prime minister wrote on Twitter on Wednesday. He shouldn't. Death to all complicit in child trafficking, or at least shame them. P was almost a protected class if HRC won. Who's P? McDowell is saying that it could be Rob Reiner and Robert De Niro. That would be really, really freaky, because Robert De Niro was accused of something a few years ago about this, and Epstein only gave $1,250 to Alphonse D'Amato. Yeah, that was the guy running against Schumer, and I think he gave a lot of money to Chuck Schumer. So, yeah, that's a lot of strange stuff. So, what else is going on here? The Mail article came a day after Barak gave an interview to the Daily Beast, stating that he never attended a party with Epstein or saw him with women or young girls. Barak told the Daily Beast that he had been introduced to Epstein by late Israeli statesman Shimon Peres. Wow, that's nice, shifting the blame to a dead guy. By the way, Shimon Peres was a horrible, horrible leader, for those of you that don't know. And it would probably, for those of you that would be asking, okay, I know some of you guys, some of you guys may be interested. This doesn't reflect bad on Netanyahu personally, because Barak is his arch enemy. So, so he's basically happy as a clam. I think he's even using this against Netanyahu. A statement released Wednesday by Barak's Israel Democratic Party read, Ehud Barak rejects the loathsome insinuations by the newspaper's reports. The allegations are baseless. This is not the first time the paper has published false reports about Mr. Barak and others. Opposition leader and head of the Blue and White Party, Benny Gantz, told Ynet in an interview Wednesday they could not rule out involvement of someone in Israel who would benefit from this kind of reporting. He declined to say outright to whom he was referring. It's Bibi. Let me see here. P was almost a protected class. Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what you mean now. Sorry. Things don't happen with only divine intervention. So are they censoring that word, Chris? Can you tell me? Is that something you can't type into the YouTube chat? Is it? I mean, maybe one of you guys maybe jump into the lake and give it a shot. Try typing in the word that he's talking about. Things don't happen with only divine intervention, Gantz said. I would rather not go there. I prefer to talk about the issues. Yeah, sure you do. Barak recently unveiled his new party and announced his intention to oust Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is facing a series of charges for alleged corruption. The time has come to choose between the state of Netanyahu or the state of Israel, Barak claimed. So, yeah, I don't think anybody really is making, nobody's really gaining here apart from possibly Netanyahu. It would be really funny if people started to have the suspicion that this whole Epstein thing was just some sort of scheme by Netanyahu to screw his opponents, and that really Epstein is innocent or something, which, this is me, kind of brainstorming out here as a joke. But, yeah, it really helps Benjamin Netanyahu much more than it does his opponents over there. But let's get back to the substance of the issue here. So you have Rick Sanchez and Ben Swann hypothesizing that he could be Mossad, and he could be. And yes, Robert Maxwell was very widely suspected to have been an agent back in the late 80s, I believe. See, Chris, it suspended your comment, and I had to approve it. Look at that. Skeevy YouTube. So we can't talk about that word, can we? That's screwed up. So that's like their real big case, that Robert Maxwell, and I'll show you who Robert Maxwell was. He's dead now. And he wasn't born British, he was born in the Czech Republic, and he served when the Czechs were when the Czechs were conquered by the Germans in World War II, Maxwell, of course, fled to Britain because he was himself Jewish, and he served in the British Army during the war, and then he eventually ended up going and founding this publishing arm, and then later he would buy the Mirror, the Daily Mirror. I think he was even a member of Parliament for about 6 years for the Labour Party, and that was indeed a very different Labour Party at the time. I was ragging on Jimmy Dore's stream. My comments kept disappearing. What were you saying, Chris? I want to know. Jimmy Dore's kind of a strange guy. I want to know why they were censoring your crap. So it says here, Maxwell had a flamboyant lifestyle living in Headington Hill Hall in Oxford, from which he often flew in his helicopter and sailing in his luxury yacht, the Lady Ghislaine. He was notably litigious and often embroiled in controversy, including about his support for Israel at the time of the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. In 1989, he had to sell successful businesses, including Pergamon Press, to cover some of his debts. In 1991, his body was discovered floating in the Atlantic Ocean, having fallen overboard from his yacht. He was buried in Jerusalem. So look, suspicious death. A lot of involvement with Israel and donations to Israel and possible connections to the Mossad. So it's not entirely impossible that Ghislaine Maxwell, who is his daughter, okay, Ghislaine Maxwell is over here. Yeah, it could be. Look, let's be clear. It could be that she's connected. But there's one question that I have, and I'm wondering if you guys would please give me your thoughts. Why would the Mossad recruit as an agent somebody whose father they killed? It doesn't make any sense to me. Why would this person be dependable? Why would they be loyal? Maybe they could blackmail her, whatever the case would be. I think that it would be a very big conflict for them to be. First of all, she's known to have been associated with someone who was already really suspected to be an agent of theirs. And also, they allegedly did her dad dirty and killed him. So I think that is a big hole in the theory. Okay, and that's my main issue with the theory kind of tossed around by Ben Swann and RT and whatever. Also, Ghislaine Maxwell is technically not Jewish because her mom was I believe she was French. Let me see here. Yeah, so she's not technically Jewish anyway. If you guys follow Jewish law, not that that's like the biggest issue here. So the Mossad theory has a little bit of a foundation to it, but it doesn't have much above that. That's my opinion. What do you guys think? Jimmy was complaining about huge lines and only 2 employees working. So I just said Ralph fired the 2. Who's Ralph? You know, it's pretty funny when Jimmy gets pissed off. He can't. You can see he has an anger problem. I wonder if I think he's married to his co-host Steph Zamorano. So I'm wondering if they have like really, really loud arguments in their house. You know, they live in LA. They probably, you know, the water usage is what's it called? Is rationed over there. So you can just hear Jimmy saying, "Steph, how many fucking hours you gotta be in the bathroom?" You know, it's crazy. So yeah, I mean, what do you guys think about my analysis of the Jeffrey Epstein Mossad theory? So look, a lot of people would just go and point fingers straight away and say, "Hey, you're criticizing Israel and you're talking about the Mossad, you're being anti-Semitic." I don't really think that's fair at all. Yes, Rick Sanchez has kind of he has a career history that people bring up. I don't think that necessarily it was the worst thing. He said something about the Jews not necessarily being that big of a minority and they have too much power. You know, obviously that's a sensitive topic. I don't care personally. Ralph's Market. You needed fruit so you could tell. I'd have to see what you're talking about, Chris. Sorry. But yes, I think that it's a theory that you can't just discount yet, but you can't also say, well, Jeffrey Epstein is Jewish. His partner is the daughter of a former Mossad contact, allegedly, by the way. So it's not confirmed officially. Therefore, connect the dots. He is Mossad. I think that they're making a little bit of a leap. They didn't say for sure. You know, they put the question mark here. But that's my thoughts on that. I don't know what you guys are thinking. I would probably, there's a lot of people that would say to me, why are you even talking about this? Can't you just have our backs and just say that it's a bunch of nonsense? If I thought it was a bunch of nonsense, I probably wouldn't be talking about it. I think it actually is a very interesting topic. And, maybe we'll find out. Did Dave say, who was it? Somebody said they're supposed to release 20,000 pages. I thought they were supposed to release something a couple days ago, by the way. Maybe it was Wednesday. Let me check Twitter real quick. Got Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez just, the whole squad thing. I want to tell you guys, like, I get it that it's a funny issue and everything, but it's been 5 days, and who cares at this point? By the way, so for programming note, this is not the TGIF stream. I might have a TGIF stream later, and then you guys could, if you want, maybe call in, talk a little bit about some of the issues that I bring up there, which are more current events. This is a current event too, but we're about to go into the 9/11 stuff, which is right here. So, so anyway, we're talking a lot about working on, breaking all this obsession with calling people Islamophobic, calling people anti-Semitic, calling people racist, calling people, if people have prejudices, they have prejudices. I'm not going to try to change them into fucking My Little Pony people, bronies or whatever. They can live that way, and I can live, and everybody can get along. At least I think so. Ben Swan says, Trump administration wrong, cryptocurrency not national security risk. And I agree, so this is a video that popped up on my feed. So yeah, Ben Swan, I don't agree with him on this topic yet. I think that he's jumping ahead of his, he's getting his horses ahead of him. I don't, what's the expression? But on other topics, yeah, I think Ben Swan's great. And I think that if you treat people that way, if you treat everything that they talk about as something unique, and you don't just jump to conclusions about their prejudices and things like that, you don't necessarily burn bridges, and you can probably have a bit of a reasonable dialogue with them, hopefully. Obviously, in some cases, it's not true. So on, was it Monday, Sunday, I don't remember, we talked a little bit about the dancing Israeli theory. And this is something that, so I'm Jewish, and this friend of mine, who's also actually much more, observant than me, came up to me one time and said, well, there could be like pending indictments against these Mossad agents for the September 11th attacks. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about, pending indictments? I haven't heard anyone's name. I haven't seen any news stories or whatever. And he said, yeah, it's gonna happen and whatever. So, we're talking earlier this week about Phil Giraldi, who was a former CIA officer and the chair of the Council for the National Interest. But look, the issue with Phil Giraldi, and this is something where I will bring in prejudice a bit, is that no matter what it is, he thinks it's the Israelis or he thinks it's the Jews. And he says the Jews. And therefore, it's difficult necessarily to believe him, because at that point it becomes a boy who cried wolf thing. So the dancing Israeli thing, for many years I was hearing it, and I was like, yeah, this dancing Israeli thing, how come I never see any piece of evidence about it? And how come everybody keeps talking about it, and yet, everywhere it seems like it's been debunked? But, of course, you guys know as well as I do that in the past few years, this whole notion of fake news has changed, because the mainstream media, the people who supposedly are the more dependable news services, ABC, for example, when I was a kid, ABC, Peter Jennings was like the gold standard. It's like my mom would be like, yeah, it's 6:30, you got to put on Peter Jennings, or was it 6 o'clock? And that doesn't exist anymore. So I was intrigued by this, this news from my friend, and I started to look into this a couple weeks ago when I saw something that Phil Giraldi, a friend of mine had shared something from Phil Giraldi, and he was trying to blame, just like Ben Swann was insinuating but wasn't calling out necessarily. He was trying to say that, yes, the Israelis were the people behind Jeffrey Epstein, but we can never prove it because they'll probably cover it up. And that's a huge, huge, huge cop-out. Because the fact is that if you believe in something, if you're going to accuse somebody of something, and then you say, well, we can never prove it anyway, well, why should I care? Right? I mean, why should I care? So we will go through the evidence, and we will talk about it, and we'll try to take this theory seriously if we can, and then you guys can make a conclusion. I've already come to my conclusion on this theory. I don't believe that the 5 dancing Israelis were involved in espionage, but I'm going to show you why instead of just claiming that you're crazy if you think so. If you think so, that's fine. Okay, if you believe in things that I find to be untrue, there's nothing I can do. I'm sure some of you belong to religions I don't believe in, or you like Coldplay or some crap like that. So, people are different, and we have to live with that. So one of the problems I have with Giraldi, before we get into the actual evidence and some of the issues, is that he says that Jonathan Pollard was the worst spy in U.S. history. But the fact of the matter is that there have been other spies that have been worse. And Alger Hiss, however you pronounce his name. The Rosenbergs were spies. People like to say, oh, their trial wasn't fair. That doesn't mean they weren't guilty. They were guilty as sin. Aldrich Ames was a huge spy. He spied for the Russians after the Cold War, too. So don't tell me that Jonathan Pollard, based on just your opinion, not based on evidence that's public, is the worst spy ever. Maybe, yeah, granted, Phil Giraldi could know something we don't know because he was in the CIA, but Jonathan Pollard wasn't in the CIA. He was in the Office of Naval Intelligence. So he would have had to have inferred that from information given to him by people in the intelligence community. And some of that is based on unnamed sources, and we have to take your word for it. And as you guys know, unnamed sources are very difficult to hold accountable to. You can't hold them accountable. You just can't. And then, of course, there was Wen-Ho Lee. A lot of you probably don't remember who he is, but he is this Taiwanese scientist who worked at Los Alamos, and he did allegedly give a number of launch models to the Chinese of our thermonuclear weapons. Okay, allegedly, not convicted. Got off scot-free, although he lost his job. We could probably conclude that some of the intelligence made it to them from him. He, at one point, encountered a Chinese agent that had made an unannounced visit to Los Alamos, and Wen-Ho Lee happened to walk into the same meeting room and talk to him. Okay, so yes, I believe that Wen-Ho Lee probably was an asset of Chinese intelligence. Okay, can I prove it? No. Right? So that this is an issue. So it's belief here. And Phil Giraldi isn't really presenting his stuff as belief. He's presenting it as fact. Okay? And the fact is, if you want to know who is the best source for some of these issues, you go to somebody like Seymour Hersh, an investigative reporter. He reported on the Pollard scandal. He reported, I believe, on the Robert Maxwell scandal with the Israelis. He reported on the Wen-Ho Lee scandal. No, he reported on the Pollard scandal. So look, and his stuff has usually been rock solid facts. So when you have a person who's been a dependable source for news and hasn't been caught, fudging the facts, I think you go to them. Phil Giraldi, he has to his credit the fact that he didn't believe the Niger yellow cake story back in the 2000s about the Iraq War, and he claimed that it was a bunch of bunk and that it didn't really mean anything, and it was trying to get us into the war. But he does blame the Jews for it, and that's really where I think we start to see his obsession just play out, and it leads him to believe in things like the dancing Israeli theory, which I will proceed to show is not really credible. So let me just check something. So the issue with people like Phil Giraldi, so he was a CIA agent. CIA doesn't need to prove any guilt. They don't indict people. There's no guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. So therefore, I would say that Phil Giraldi, when he accuses people of things and he doesn't bring any proof, he's performing the same job he did with the CIA. The CIA was it still is an organization that's based on a lot of lies and innuendo. And it wasn't any different when he worked for them. And he'd probably say that that's the way it was when he worked there, and try to convince you that he's different. I don't think he's different. And when he takes this, he basically copied this story out of Mint Press News. And Mint Press was saying that newly released FBI documents shed light on apparent Mossad foreknowledge of the 9/11 attacks. And it says, at least two of whom were known Mossad operatives had prior knowledge of the attacks on the World Trade Center. It says for nearly 2 decades, one of the most overlooked and little-known arrests made in the aftermath of the September 11th attacks was that of the so-called high-fivers or the dancing Israelis. However, new information released by the FBI on May 7th has brought fresh scrutiny to the possibility that the dancing Israelis, at least two of whom were known Mossad operatives, had prior knowledge of the attacks on the World Trade Center. Shortly after 8:46 a.m. on the day of the attack, just minutes after the first plane struck the World Trade Center, 5 men, later revealed to be Israeli nationals, had positioned themselves in the parking lot of the Doric apartment complex in Union City, New Jersey, where they were seen taking pictures and filming the attacks, while also celebrating the destruction of the towers and, quote, high-fiving each other. At least one eyewitness interviewed by the FBI had seen the Israelis' van in the parking lot as early as 8 a.m. that day, more than 40 minutes prior to the attack. The story received coverage in U.S. mainstream media at the time, but has since been largely forgotten. The man, Sivan Kurtzberg, Paul Kurtzberg, Oded Elner, Yaron Shmuel, and Omer Marmari were subsequently apprehended by law enforcement and claimed to be Israeli tourists on a working holiday in the United States, where they were employed by a moving company, Urban Moving Systems. Upon his arrest, Sivan Kurtzberg told the arresting officer, "We are Israeli, we are not your problem. Your problems are our problems. The Palestinians are the problem." For years, the official story has been that these individuals, while they had engaged in immature behavior by celebrating being visibly happy in their documenting of the attacks, had no prior knowledge of the attack. However, newly released FBI copies of the photos taken by the 5 Israelis strongly suggest that these individuals had prior knowledge of the attacks on the World Trade Center. The copies of the photos were obtained via FOIA request by, quote, a private citizen. According to a former high-ranking American intelligence official who spoke to the Jewish Daily Forward in 2002, the FBI concluded in its investigation that the 5 Israelis arrested were conducting a Mossad surveillance mission, and that their employer, Urban Moving Systems of Weehawken, New Jersey, served as a front. At least 2 of the men arrested were determined to have direct links to the Mossad after their names appeared in a CIA-FBI database of foreign intelligence operatives. According to one of their lawyers, one of them, Paul Kurtzberg, had previously worked for the Mossad in another country prior to arriving in the United States. Another of those arrested, Oded Elner, subsequently stated on Israeli TV that the 5 Israelis had been in New York at the time to document the event, meaning the attack on the World Trade Center. So let's click on these links. So this one links to this Forward article from 2002. So the Jewish Daily Forward is, I don't really trust them today. Obviously, I think that they've probably gone through a few editors since then. And let's click on this link, ABC News. And then this link, also ABC News. So they're linking to the same article twice. Okay? 2 times in the same paragraph. What the hell is the point? Okay, and then so this is linked to the FBI report, which I also linked to in my blog, and they embedded it here too. And then they link again to it, to the. So they link again to the forward article here, okay, and another time over here, like in the same sentence. Why? So you're going to use the same article to substantiate everything? An article from the Daily Forward? What the hell? Why not use the file itself? That was my question. So you're using all these sources that are, and using them 2 times or more. So we have Larry here. Larry just got me to choke, but sorry. Larry, by the way, we have to call him 2 for 2 because not only did he recommend a good music choice, which was Hot Tuna, which, by the way, he missed on Monday. I played Hot Tuna because I thought he'd be watching, and he didn't. But he also recommended a great book, which is Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail, which I'm currently almost halfway through. So, yeah, thank you, Larry, for joining again. So, further evidence that higher ups in the administration intervened in the case is that then Attorney General John Ashcroft personally signed off on the detainee's release. Upon his entering the private sector as a lobbyist and consultant in 2005, the Israeli government became one of Ashcroft's first clients. But that's not evidence here. So let me see here. Ashcroft. It doesn't really mention Ashcroft here, so I'm wondering. Let me see. Maybe I can get this archived. I hate it when they link to the actual article. I kept posting racist Omar quotes. So, Chris, how long were you able to troll on Jimmy's stream before you got banned? All right, this is working. We'll see in a second if it helps. So this is their evidence. They state that in a file dated September 24th, 2001, officially stated that they determined that none of the Israelis were actively engaged in clandestine intelligence activities in the United States. So yeah, Larry, that was Jimmy Dore. What is going on here? Why won't it load? So we'll see if it actually mentions. We can obviously close some of these windows. So it's not really working for that. Okay, here we go. So let's see if there was anything about John Ashcroft. Mr. Kurtzberg's lawyer said it was his understanding that Attorney General John Ashcroft had to sign off on his release. It says here the 5 were asked to take polygraph tests before being allowed to leave, but Paul Kurtzberg refused on principle to divulge much about his role in the Israeli army or subsequently working for people who may have had ties to Israeli intelligence, Mr. Gordon said. His client had trouble with one 7-hour polygraph test administered last week, but did better on a second try. In the Ohio cases, the Immigration Service said at a hearing last week that the 11 Israelis were, quote, special non-terrorist cases, but Judge Elizabeth Hacker, the immigration judge conducting the hearing, questioned the agency's case for keeping the Israelis in jail. So what happened with that? Let me see here. In Ohio, on October 31st, The Immigration Service detained 9 men and 2 women, all of whom had valid passports and tourist visas. 9 of the 11 were released on bond on Friday, but 2 remain in the Medina County Jail outside of Cleveland. Wow, that sucks. Medina's a shitty place. Sorry if any of you are in Medina, but sorry, not sorry. The next hearing for the Israelis, all in their early 20s and recently finished with their Israeli army service, is scheduled for November 27th. A nation challenged the detainees. Dozens of Israeli Jews are being kept in federal detention. So there's a bunch of these people. It says we think there are about 50 in detention now in San Diego, Houston, Kansas City, St. Louis, and Cleveland. This is according to Ido Aharoni, a spokesman for the Israeli consulate in New York. It's not easy to get an exact count. They may be embarrassed that they were working illegally, and we only find out when their mothers called. That's so stereotypical because they haven't been in touch, and we check and find them in jail. His boner for Abby Martin is kind of scary. Well, I mean, she is hot. I hate Abby Martin as a person, but she is. I mean, she's a looker. I actually like who's that one from? From RT. Let me see. There's RT presenters. So RT America presenters. There's a few that are like, smoking. So this one's pretty good. Liz Wall. There's also Manila Chan. She's pretty good. They have good people on RT. I mean, this is why I tell people, of course there's Putin. So yeah, I think that there's a lot of really hot people on RT. So yeah, they cite this, and John Ashcroft had to sign off on one person's release, okay, because he had a problem with the polygraph. But why? And this is my question: why would they send one agent along with 4 other idiots or 2 agents or whatever? This is why I start to say, and this is where, and you can read it again. I'm going to put this article in the chat. It's also in the comments, okay? And Larry, you might want to check this out. So this is my blog post on the dancing Israelis. So I go into the actual evidence because Phil Giraldi and Mint Press, they are clearly in over their heads on this, or they're just full of crap. And I actually use some of the same screenshots that they do. Okay? And where is it? Okay, these are the photos that they're talking about. So here it is. It says, the picture of Kurtzberg with the lit lighter appears to be photo number 5 in the new FOIA release, yet the picture released includes a visible date of September 10th, 2001, the day before the attacks, as do 2 of the other photos, images number 7 and 8 in the collection, whereas all other photos with dates show only the photo and only the month and the year. September 2001, the FOIA release did not provide any information as to the apparent discrepancy in dates. While this could be explained away as the camera in question being programmed with a slightly inaccurate date, that doesn't seem to be the case for 2 reasons. First, only 2 out of the 14 pictures carry that date. And second, previously declassified FBI reports report an eyewitness adamantly stating that Sivan Kurtzberg had visited the Dork Apartments on September 10th, 2001 at around 3 p.m. with at least one other man with whom he was conversing in a foreign language and had identified himself as a construction worker to a tenant. And here it says, however, this is the prior paragraph, sorry. However, 3 of these photos, despite the heavy redaction and poor quality, are damning. Since 2001, even though the photos were never released until now, it had been known that one of the Israelis arrested, Sivan Kurtzberg, was seen in a photo holding a lighted lighter in the foreground with the smoldering wreckage of the Twin Towers in the background, according to Stephen Noah Gordon, then lawyer for the 5 Israelis, as cited in a New York Times report from November 2001. So that's this photo here. And they juxtapose it with this overview of the view from the Union City apartment, the Doric apartment building. So what I did was I went and did a little geography experiment, and this is where they were standing, and this is the way that they were facing this way. Okay, so they were facing towards. If you look in the background here, and this is using their photo. Okay, so you can see this is their photo, and let me see if I can enlarge mine. So you can see this a little clearer. You can see that they would be staring into Midtown Manhattan. And how do you see that? Well, if you look at their photo, you can see the Chrysler Building and the Empire State Building right here. You don't see the Twin Towers at all in either either over here or in the above photo. Now, the new photo, the colorized one, would be a current one, and you wouldn't see the Twin Towers anyway. But how would they see the wreckage all the way from Union City, New Jersey? Okay, Union City, New Jersey is, you can see here, it's about 3 miles from the World Trade Center. You would be obstructed by all of downtown Hoboken from your view over there. So you'd be looking at Hoboken, which they are, by the way. If you look at the photos, this isn't New York. This is Hoboken. It's pretty obvious. I mean, how stupid can you be? Mint Press News. So they're looking at Hoboken, New Jersey. They're not looking at New York. This is New York. Over here, the tinted area. That would be Midtown Manhattan. So that's the first issue, and then I actually go into the issue where the elevation of the World Trade Center is about 10 feet above sea level. Okay, the elevation of this apartment building is 143 feet. Okay, in this area. So that would be, now if they were standing near the top of the Doric Towers, which is where they are, yeah, they would be able to. I think that's a further 182 feet. Yes, they would be able to possibly see the World Trade Center building, but they weren't. They were standing on the roof of a garage, a ground level garage, and you can barely see past the. You can barely see past these buildings right over here. So why would you be able to see anything down there? You probably couldn't even see. So the World Trade Center would be. Do you guys see where my cursor is? Let me see. So yeah, I'm looking at my OBS. So the World Trade Center would probably be in this area around over there. Okay, because the World Trade Center is, again, in this area of Manhattan. You possibly could have seen it from one of the apartment buildings in the Doric Towers, which is the Union City apartment building where it was found. But first of all, the Twin Towers themselves sit on lower ground than Union City. Okay, so you would be looking a straight shot over there. Second of all, you would see, if you're on the ground level, you would be obstructed by other stuff in the way. So is everybody clear from there? And I go into a little bit more of a nuanced take on this in the article. So yeah, please pull it up if you guys want. You guys are still talking about Abby Martin. Vavavoom. Her pro-socialism stance is dumb. Great ass, though. Yeah, that's about the best thing you can say about her. She's pretty stupid in terms of economics. By the way, she also used to be a 9/11 truther, which is, that's fine, but again, you need evidence. So all of this comes from Panamza, which is a French blog which is known for, they deny that the Charlie Hebdo hearing was, the Charlie Hebdo incident they think was fake, and now they're saying Epstein and Mossad pedophile. They're going nuts on this. They're going. I mean, look at there's so many Zionist pedophile Epstein. I'm gonna get banned, by the way, because of this stupid stream, because I'm talking about this because these idiots They want to jump to conclusions about stuff. But yeah, literally all their stories are about Netanyahu and Israel and whatever, which is you could say they have a real hard on for them. So yeah, they took those photos from Panamza. So I went into the actual FBI document too, and I started to look at some of the issues. Now, again, there's a lot of redactions, obviously. Some of the redactions could be because obviously there could be, intelligence information that would be sensitive. So that would be to their credit. For example, they could say, well, this was the Mossad said, we can't talk about this or whatever. Yeah, that's possible. It also could be because there were people who were not indicted, people who, witnesses don't want their names disclosed. They don't want assholes, coming over to their apartment and asking, hey, why don't you spill the beans on these people? Right? So, yeah, David, I can't click on that link, by the way, because I think she banned me on Twitter. So if you look at the actual file, okay, there are a number of 302 interviews which are by the FBI, and it says, I'm going to read this. It says, in its article, Giraldi and Mint Press highlight page 61 from the report, an FBI FD302 interview transcription filled out on September 13th, 2001, in which a witness positively identified the man called Number 5 as having visited the apartment on September 10th at 3 p.m. The same interview mentioned that he was speaking to a man after exiting the elevator in a foreign language that the witness could not identify. In fact, he says that he thought it was Spanish. And was not arrested or within the pictures shown to him. So he spoke to some people there, and those people happened to not be arrested in this whole probe. Okay, so isn't that a little funny that they claim that there was this big spy ring, but they never found the person who spoke to him in the elevator? This poses a question that neither Giraldi or anyone else has asked until now. Is it possible the person Number 5 was visiting an acquaintance living at the building the day before the attacks? If so, this could present an explanation as to why the crew was there. The Mint Press article even mentions they had been assisting a resident in moving out of the apartments on September 10th. While Mint Press claims that the Israeli government acknowledged the operation, it only cites an archived Jewish Daily Forward article that quotes an anonymous American intelligence source claiming that Israel had acknowledged this operation privately. So they're basically relying on the Jewish Daily Forward and its anonymous source to claim that Israel had admitted it. As an engineer, did the tower collapse look fishy? Did it look like controlled demolition? Look, I haven't looked at that. Maybe one day I can. I'm not a structural engineer. That would be more of a civil discipline. From what I've heard, some of the models that claim that it was a controlled demolition, they don't actually control for some of the fixed, So they basically have it as like kind of a free body. So a free body would be much easier because a free body is theoretical. There's no anchorage to it. So that would be much easier to detonate, obviously, theoretically, because there's nothing at the base holding it, right? So that's the only thing I know about it. So I would have to go and really, really take a look at it. But, I'm not going to say that I don't think it looks like one. Let me see here. You guys still talking about Jimmy? I thought Larry would be interested in this because it has to do with the FBI. This is hardly a public admission. Mint Press then falsely claims that the man claimed to be a construction worker to the witness. The FBI file from that page shows that he could not recall the nature of the work the man stated that he was performing. And indeed, so I linked here. Whoops. So I have to, here, let me right click and here we go. So this is the FBI file. And it says here, such and such neighbors who reside in the apartment left their daughter with this person to babysit. As these neighbors left the apartment complex, they saw this person waiting for the cab, so they transported him to college. At approximately 9 a.m. in apartment, this telephonically contacted to tell her they saw smoke coming. Let me see. I think it was the previous interview. Okay, here it goes. So it's page 61. It says here, they definitely saw the individual identified in the photographs as number 5 within the apartment building at around 3 p.m. on September 10th, 2001, the day before the interview, as well as here and there during the preceding weekend. The individual was observed entering the elevator in the lobby along with another individual with whom he was conversing, perhaps in Spanish. The manner in which the two men were speaking suggested that they knew each other. The second man was not within the pictures presented. So the thing that I would conclude is that there was a different person on the moving crew that was not there on that day. And then here it says, so this is Mint Press lying. It says the interviewee stated that he could not recall the nature of the work the man stated he was performing. So that's not construction. So what they're trying to say is that he lied. But the reality is that it doesn't say anything about that in the report. So this is Mint Press basically lying in their article. The next pages concern the witness that is most likely to have been featured in media reports who spotted the men while peeking out at Manhattan with her binoculars. She also stated that she observed them celebrating and hugging while taking still photographs of the World Trade Center. The witness also reported that the person recording footage was panning the horizon. However, this was after the first collision of American Flight 11. So what purpose would he have had to scan an horizon that was empty of any planes? This also contradicts the accusation of foreknowledge, as the second plane coming from the south would have been invisible from that area. So again, we're talking foreknowledge, right? So remember, they're accusing these Israeli agents of foreknowledge. So if they had foreknowledge, they would know where the planes were coming from and probably how they were going to hit the towers. But this is... This isn't going to open here. This is Flight 175, United Flight 175. It came from the south. From Union City, New Jersey, they wouldn't have seen that. So this is against the narrative that these people would know about it. Why would they perch themselves over all the way over here? Okay, so they're watching again all the way over here. They're trying to see a plane coming from this direction, flying into the southern tower. It doesn't make any sense to me. So yeah, that's a big hole in that story, I would say. However, as evident from this is me again reading from my blog. As evident from any image available, the towers are not visible from that vantage point. Other witnesses are unable to identify some or any of the individuals in the FBI supplied suspect photos. A female witness interviewed on the 14th stated that she saw witness number 4, or I should say suspect number 4, on the Liberty State Park ferry returning from Manhattan at 12:30 on September 11th. If the suspects had shot footage or taken still photographs from Liberty State Park, it would have made much more sense. The view below shows the trajectory of an observer from the park on a map towards the World Trade Center, along with a photo from the water taxi that could be taken at a distance of less than 1.2 miles. So this is a file photo from Liberty State Park. You can clearly see, by the way, if you look at the website supplied that I put here, there are plenty of photos there of the World Trade Center from Liberty State Park. So why would the Mossad, which presumably has had people go to New York before, why would they pick Union City, New Jersey to film these attacks when they could have just had people down at Liberty State Park and gotten a much better view? Why would there be any value from looking at this view up here? You see that, as opposed to this view down there. There's no point. It's plain, it's nonsense. Okay, so another witness interviewed on the 16th saw a box truck, not a Chevy van, with United moving on its side after arriving at Liberty State Park sometime after 10 a.m. and observed 3 men entering the truck after the closing of Ellis Island was announced, one of them with a 35mm camera. This would be consistent with the Canon Rebel 1000 later captured. But by this point, the plane impact would have already long been over. Could the men have been photographing the Twin Towers? Yes. But so was anyone with a camera in arm's reach. And by the way, the Canon Rebel is not a video camera. It's just it's an old film type camera. It's just it's for it's for still shots. So no, there's no value that would have been added from this. It's clearly one of the the real question is, if they were documenting what was going on, why would the Mossad from an apartment over in Jersey City be able to get any better view than helicopters that were flying around in the Twin Tower area during 9/11 itself? They could have just watched TV. You don't need any of the angle doesn't make any sense. What value would there have been for them to be filming or photographing the ensuing carnage that could not have been gained from network TV footage? Of course, if one believes the idea that the 5 men were documenting the attacks for the Mossad, it would make perfect sense that they would visit the park. In fact, the towers could be seen from virtually anywhere on the park's open grounds, as this website shows. So you can see here. Now, Liberty State Park is, so you can see this is just from somewhere in the random part of the park. And you can just see the Twin Towers from literally anywhere in the park. Why would you be in if you're going to film it from anywhere in New Jersey, you would film it from here. It's basically, you can't miss it. It's ridiculous. And this is the area where, you would probably be able to see it the best. You're basically on the water ferry and water taxi, and you can just see the towers right there. No problem. You could probably film it while you're on the ferry. See, this is probably from. So yeah, this is the best vantage point, and mysteriously these Mossad agents that Phil Giraldi is trying to stroke himself about, they couldn't figure out that you could probably film the footage from there better. And those of you that are saying, well, they did appear at Liberty State Park. Well, that was over an hour after the second plane hit. That's not exactly good planning. And you don't have any footage or any photographs of them there. You just have one witness talking about one van there. It wasn't even a van. It was a box truck. This would not hold up in a court of law. In fact, this would probably be thrown out all the way. Larry says, I hate all spies. Well, then maybe you should. I mean, Phil Giraldi is a spy, so you hate him? Now you don't know what to think. He did work for the CIA. On the 14th, the FBI also interviewed a person. I think I went ahead. Is it conceivable that a professional group of spies had chosen the Doric apartment complex with its obscured view on purpose the day before and not known that it was an inadequate vantage point, and only then decided to drive further down the Hudson River in order to actually capture Lower Manhattan? So how dumb could these spies have been? What's up, Will? On the 14th, the FBI also interviewed a person who had been painting an apartment at the Doric Apartments, who viewed the men from the window between approximately 9 and 10 a.m. and the white van and the brown van in the vicinity. By this point, both planes would have impacted the towers, or one of them would have been, let me see. It says, by this point, the second plane was either impacting or already had crashed into the South Tower. However, this witness does not report seeing any celebration occurring. So when the actual impact had happened, this guy doesn't even see them celebrating at all. He doesn't report that. You would thought that they reported that. Is everyone who worked for intel agency being a spy? Yes, I would say that if you work for the CIA, you automatically, your job isn't to tell the truth. Your job is to lie. Okay, I don't care if people say, "Oh, I was just delivering coffee to friggin' John Brennan." Okay, there's no reason if you're affiliated in any way with the CIA, that's already a black mark against you. Okay. Another witness reports that Urban Moving had been mentioned in a phone call by a resident announcing that they were moving out ahead of the end of the lease expiring at the end of September. This witness also appears to have been working on the complex's administrative office. She then reported that after requesting licenses from Urban Moving, it was promptly supplied. So then we're going to go into some of their behavior. Chris is asking, doesn't one conspiracy theory say the Israelis warned the U.S. and Bush did squat? From the evidence that I've heard, they gave them kind of a general warning, and it wasn't really specific enough for them to do anything. So I think that, in general, this was a failure of U.S. intelligence, or perhaps U.S. intelligence just they didn't care. I could believe that, too. What about the NSA? Larry says, I mean, spies who work against the U.S., against us. Well, I mean, there's plenty of people in the CIA that have done pretty shitty things over the years, working against the United States. You know, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of CIA people who have worked for other countries, right? I don't think that you can trust people who have been in the intelligence business and haven't been caught. There's so many people that have done so many awful things that why would you trust anything they say? So look, Giraldi, I did give him credit because he was, I put this at the beginning, okay? Because as much as I disagree with his premise here and his entire worldview, he did doubt the yellow cake uranium theory. See here. So here's it is. So I'm going on with the blog article. A major issue that neither Giraldi nor any of the other accusatory sources never address is the reckless conduct of the supposed surveillance team on top of the already mentioned celebrations and presence of members in photos pointing in the wrong direction, choosing a poor vantage point, and bringing 5 people to do a job for which 2 would have been sufficient. So those are things I didn't go over yet. Okay, so if you look at this photo over here, I'll open this photo in a new tab. This is the one that they say incriminates him, talking about him holding up a lit lighter next to the wreckage of the World Trade Center. But again, it's the same angle where they would be looking at Midtown Manhattan. They wouldn't even be looking at he's not even pointing in the direction of either in the background the World Trade Center, because it would have been all the way down over there. And in fact, the World Trade Center would be on his left, and he's pointing to his right. So how the hell does that make sense, Phil Giraldi? Why would he be pointing to his left, towards, he's pointing to his right. He's pointing towards the Bronx, basically. And as we know, nothing crashed into the Bronx that day, although, parts of the Bronx look like they've been hit by meteors. Asteroids, whatever. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, look at the fucking photo and then tell me how somebody who is located in New Jersey. So this is the map. Okay, this is the map, guys. And he's in New Jersey, and he's facing west. Therefore, his right hand is facing north, and his left hand is facing south, and his right hand is pointing out to the right. He's not pointing towards the World Trade Center. And you're asking about the flight path, right? Well, the flight path, let's see here. I mean, the flight path, so your theory is, so that's something that I thought people might bring up. Yeah, he could be pointing, it did come down through, it would probably have been flying over New Jersey itself, not over the Bronx. Now, of course, there could be some fudging on top in terms of this map. You know, I don't know how accurate this arrow is. It could be. But I don't see why. You know, he's saying, you know, I'm holding this lighter out. Yes, the plane is coming from here. Could be. But that's not what they say. They don't say that. Remember what they say in the article, okay? Remember what they say. It says right here. However, the three of these photos, despite the heavy redaction and poor quality, are damning. Since 2001, even though the photos were never released until now, it has been known that one of the Israelis arrested, Sivan Kurtzberg, was seen in the photo holding a lighted lighter in the foreground with the smoldering wreckage of the Twin Towers in the background. According to Stephen Noah Gordon, then lawyer for the 5 Israelis, as cited in it. So then I guess the lawyer is an idiot, because if you look at the photo and you see where they are in New Jersey, there's no way that he would have been pointing towards the World Trade Center. So they're not even bringing up that theory. Surfer Magazine had outstanding 9/11 photos from out in the surf off Sandy Hook and Fort Hancock. Very weird. All the guys on board watching. So Sandy Hook is in Connecticut, though, isn't it? That must have been some pretty powerful cameras. So yeah, that's the last I'm going to talk about the angles, unless you guys have more questions. When they were caught, the team members apparently had 3 passports in the Chevy van, including an expired one. Does that sound professional? Did you see the HHH photo? No, I haven't seen the photo. 2 of the men, Paul and Sivan Kurtzberg, are, according to every account, brothers. The choice of using 2 blood relatives on the same team in any illegal or covert enterprise carries serious risk, as the arrest of one or both can lead to a confession by one in order to spare a penalty for the other. So this is something I think some of you who have had run-ins with the law would probably know. If you're going to commit a crime, you should probably do it with people, and you're going to commit it in, you know, the number of people. You might not want to have people who would possibly spill the beans in order to save somebody else. Okay, so 3 of the people on the team were not related, and 2 of them were. The other 3 are put at risk by the first 2, the related people, being related, because then if, let's say, 5 of them are captured, then the 2 of them are going to try probably to save the other skin, and then get the 3 who are not related to them screwed and blamed for it. And that's not what happened, in fact. According to the FBI report of the search of the vehicle, no video camera was found, and the only camera found was the 35mm Canon Rebel 2000, which is not a video camera. It is possible that the group ditched the video camera at some point during their travels that day, or that it was misplaced or disposed of between their arrest and the search, but it has never been since the day the men were arrested. It has never been seen since the day they were arrested. So I'll pull this page up, okay? Let's get rid of that. So this is the search report from the FBI file. And you can plainly see here, okay, and this is in English. On November 20th, 2001, Special Agents blank and blank conducted a follow-up investigation of the 2000 Chevrolet 1500 urban moving van license JRJ13Y. The van, which was seized on 9/11/2001, is being stored at the Tatoa, New Jersey State Police Barracks. Providing access to the van was blank New Jersey State Police. Blank remained with the agents throughout the review. Special agents blank and blank conducted the review in an attempt to locate the green lighter shown in one of the photographs, locate evidence of a video camera, and to determine the accuracy of the time/date LCD readout on the Canon EOS 2000 camera. After completing the search of the van and its contents, both agents were unable to locate the lighter or video camera and any evidence of a video camera. Okay, and this is the only part where the video camera is even mentioned, and it's not there. An examination of the Canon EOS Rebel 2000 serial number blank time date revealed that on November 20th, 2001 at 10:03, the camera's readout read 9/19/2001 and 7/22/58. The discrepancy translates that the time date readout is 14 hours and 41 minutes late. Okay, so if you were to see any footage from it, it would likely be, a day or two, 14 hours ahead. Okay? Not taking pictures may or may not help. I don't think that them taking pictures was really a very professional manner of behavior. Okay, they were pretty obvious. If you're standing in a fucking parking lot where an entire building of people can see you during the most traumatic event in the history of New York, New Jersey, I think that you're doing a pretty bad job of being an intelligence agent. Okay, I think this is pretty unprofessional. That's why I labeled it amateur behavior. And then furthermore, in an interview of one of the subjects under detention in Brooklyn on September 20th, he confessed to having the phone number of a Moroccan hashish dealer. It is unclear whether he is a Moroccan living in New York or perhaps a Moroccan Israeli. In the list of items seized from the vehicle, there is included, quote, adapted Nesquik drink bottle with spout pipe. And this is over here. Take my pick with RT. What's the question? So yeah, here it goes. So they inspected the vehicle, and this is what they found. This is from the search. It says coffee cup, clear tape and clear dispenser, large bowl of unknown. Ew. Verizon bill, one line visible under return envelope. New York City Metro card visible between cup and bowl. Adapted Nesquik drink bottle with spout, hash pipe. So these amazing... Actually, yeah, Larry, you missed it. We were saying how Michelle Greenstein is cute, but she was in... You missed the video. We had the video earlier. We had a video of her. Yeah, she's pretty cute. So yeah, I want to ask you guys, do you think that this super elite team of intelligence agents from the Mossad, they picked the wrong vantage point, they celebrated during the filming, they danced around, right? Even though they couldn't see shit from where they were standing, right? Because you can't, what can you see from here? Okay, even now elevated, you can see the Empire State Building and the Chrysler Building, but you can't see anything else. I have it open to read after your stream. No, just follow along, dude. So someone in this group of crack agents sent to film the biggest act of terror in American history with foreknowledge decided to toke up in their work van sometime that week and risk being stopped on a petty drug charge? Other items seized were a 2-page letter in Hebrew, a diary book in Hebrew, a book with names and phone numbers, and an envelope postmarked from Charlotte to Maryland. There was also a letter of introduction from the Banca Pauline branch in Kiryat Ono, Israel, to the U.S. Embassy. So these geniuses, this brilliant plan to film something that was already going to be on TV was, they decided, it's so brilliant, we don't have to bother not including our own personal banking documents in the work van that we're using in it. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Stormy says, I'd scissor pretty much any staff member from RT. Well, I guess they better look at the a visit to the STD clinic. The probe into United Moving Systems created a lead to another moving company, White Gloves Movers, in Jersey City. There, the FBI interviewed some individuals, including one that apparently may have been involved in Israeli intelligence based on the redaction, as this person, name and gender undisclosed, reported knowing someone that travels abroad armed. This is the clearest nexus that I could find in the publicly available evidence to an intelligence operation. So this is, I went through the file. I went through almost all of the file. You know, maybe I'll find something else some other time. But there's really no evidence, in my opinion, that these people were credibly connected to Israeli intelligence. And then you get to the issue of the boss, Dominic Suter. So if you look up Dominic Suter, he's basically assumed to be a Mossad agent. But let's think about what's going on here for a second, okay? Because these people were deported. Not him, but the other people, the 5 dancers. Giraldi cites a fact. So hold on. There are many insinuations made about the true nature of United Moving Systems, including by Giraldi, that its owner, Dominic Suter, was operating a front company for an intelligence operation. With the evidence that is available, it is likely he was very guilty, but not of espionage. Giraldi cites the fact that he fled for Israel a few days after the FBI obtained a warrant to search his offices in Weehawken, New Jersey. I love that name, Weehawken. But it's probably the only thing I would like about New Jersey. But the FBI witness reports indicate that regardless of any supposed role in 9/11, UMS was at the very least violating tax and labor laws in the state. A female witness interviewed on the 16th claimed that the owner of UMS, Suter, had between 20 and 30 foreign men from Poland, Ukraine, and Israel working for him with tourist visas, visitor visas. They're actually called visitor visas. It is illegal to work in the United States as a tourist without a non-immigrant work visa. The witness explicitly said that Suter would pay below minimum wage in cash and often refuse to pay his employees knowledge that they have no legal recourse due to their immigration status. According to USCIS website, employers that violated the laws of verifying identity and employment authorization and filling out I-9 forms could face civil or criminal penalties. So he was employing illegal immigrants, this guy. And he was also committing tax fraud. So why would he stay in the United States? And they have a warrant to search his office after one of his employees spilled the beans on his immigration and tax violations. The same witness claimed that Suter used a service that would provide for his employees Florida driver's licenses within 1 day for $400 or $500. This disclosure by a witness would have given the FBI and INS probable cause to raid Suter's business. Also, as registered multiple times in the FBI file, one of the suspects was caught with over $4,000 in cash in his sock. For paying employees under the table, Suter would have been liable for back taxes and possible criminal charges for tax evasion that would have resulted in up to 5 years in federal prison and a fine of $250,000. Since 9/11, there have been various reports of Suter visiting the United States again, mostly on sites speculating about the Mossad's role in the terror attacks. His first name is variously spelled Dominic with a C, Dominic with a K, and Dominic with both C and a K. So they can't figure out what his real name is. That's a real problem. And then the conclusion is just me saying, this is just about the 5 Israelis. So if you guys have this theory, okay, I know MC has a little bit more of, he's pro-Israel. I would certainly consider myself pro-Israel. Some of you guys maybe not. It's all fine. I have no problem with any of you people. If you guys think, if you think that the Mossad had a role in 9/11, in any of these other issues that are out there, I know some of you brought up the controlled demolitions. I'm not addressing it here. That's not really the topic for today. Sorry, but I think that would probably take a much longer time to solve than this. And there's probably people much better suited to that. But as far as the 5 dancing Israeli theory, I have to conclude that these were 5 idiots, illegal immigrants that were working illegally, and they were horsing around, and they fucked up pretty bad. They fucked up, and in fact, there was a witness who said that this is exactly the type of pinch that they probably would have gotten into because she knew one of them. But yeah, there's plenty of other issues. You know, the 9/11 Commission report, according to some of the stuff that I looked up, it had people, for example, the one of the panelists was Governor James Thompson of Illinois, who was a lobbyist for United and American Airlines. And you also had Tom Keene, who was the chair of the commission, and he didn't have any real investigative experience. He was just a career politician. So, look, I think you guys, you know how I roll. You can read this. There's comments over here. You can also comment. By the way, please comment on Gab. Comment on Gab. Comment on Gab, you motherfuckers. Because it does get a little more traffic if people see it on Gab. And yeah, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you think I got it wrong, if you think that this theory was actually valid. I don't see how you would have 5 people, of whom even Mint Press says that only 2 of them appear to have been intelligence agents. And that is based on a Forward article, The Forward, which is crap, and unnamed sources from the FBI. They claim, oh, that's why they're intelligence sources. No, it's not. That's not proof. And then on top of that, they don't have their visas in order. They're working illegally. They have thousands of dollars of cash stashed in their socks. They're looking at, again, you know, let's go briefly over this. They're standing over here. Larry, I don't know. You said you lived in Union City. Could you see the World Trade Center from where you lived? If you were on the ground, I'm saying. DFW area flight schools were training lots of Mideast nationals back then. Hey, I didn't know you're from Dallas, Will. Are you a Cowboys fan? I'm a huge Dallas fan, by the way. Huge Dallas fan. Looking forward to this year. So again, the best vantage point they would have in these photos would not be to southern Manhattan. It wouldn't be lower Manhattan, they call it, but Midtown Manhattan. And that's what you see in this photo. And this photo, you see a little bit of lower Manhattan, but you mostly see Hoboken. Okay, I'm waiting for Larry's answer, by the way. So they're picking a poor vantage point when they could have had a much easier one at the beginning of the attack down here. They could have just seen the towers right there. They have a hash pipe in the vehicle, so that's drug paraphernalia. They're also acting conspicuously. They're driving around the entire city. No, I don't believe that this really was an intelligence operation. So that's about it for today. I'm going to see if there's any more comments in the chat before we leave. I thank you guys for joining me. I'm going to play the music again in a second. Let me see here. One more reason to despise you. Yeah, hate me for the right reason. I'm wearing a Zeke and Destroy shirt over here. I don't know if you guys can see it. Zeke and Destroy. So let me see. Larry, answer the question. Could you see the Twin Towers from Union City when you were a kid? Although I think they were built in 75. It would depend if Larry was born. You know, I don't want to age Larry, but I think if you were born before 75, you couldn't see the Twin Towers. But he could say at least if he could see southern or lower Manhattan from there. I think Larry went to take a piss or something. So that's about it for today. Thanks for watching. We might have another stream later today, maybe not. We'll see. This went a little longer than I thought it would. But, yeah. I'll call you guys out. You got MC, Will, Redding, Larry, Chris Krull, Stormy, Horseface Daniels, Dave McDowell. I think I said MC already. Memes was here earlier. I think that's it. Thank you for watching. Driving while high, acting suspiciously is normal. Larry, can you? I'm asking a question, okay? Impex, thanks for joining. When you lived in Jersey City, in Union City, could you see the Twin Towers from the ground? Okay, was there a vantage point in Union City where you could see the Twin Towers clearly on a clear day? Will says if it was truly the Mossad, there would be no trace of presence. So yeah, that's one of the funny things, that they think that the Mossad sometimes they pretend that they're like super intelligent, like basically alien beings, and then they say that this sloppy operation, it was clearly Mossad. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, it's either they're geniuses or they're retarded. You can't be both. I still don't see Larry. Larry, answer the question. I want to end the stream. He's not answering. What the hell? I think Larry is obstructing justice here. We're gonna have to get Adam Schiff on his ass. Iran has just seized the British tanker. Oh, shit. More stuff to worry about on the weekend. Yeah, that's about it. I'll talk to you guys later. And, yeah, Larry, let me know if you have an answer to the question. It's very simple. Can you see the World Trade Center from Union City anywhere on the ground?